Suale, 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 suale. Gather round, gather round the drum. Gather round, the music has begun. Gather round, gather round the drum. Gather round, the music has begun. Let's all join in and all join in and join in with the drum. And all join in and all join in, the music has begun. Now our story takes place a long time ago. It was in a time where animals and people lived together happily. Now in this particular village there was going to be a big party. There was going to be food and there would be dancing. There would be a big celebration and all the animals and all the people would come together. But the villagers got together and decided that there was one person who wasn't going to be invited, and that was Spider. And Spider was the best musician in the whole village. And he and his family would play all the drums and make everybody dance. But the reason they didn't want Spider to come to the party was because he had so many children and he had such a big appetite. He used to eat all the food. And they thought, if we invite Spider, he'll bring all his children and they'll eat all the food and there'll be none left for us. So they decided they would keep the party a secret, not tell Spider. And that way all the food would be for them. Now Spider wasn't stupid and he found out about this party and he thought, well, that's not very fair. And he had a plan. So he got all his children together and they got all their drums and they took all their drums down to the river. And all the children took their drums, all the instruments, and they all went down to the river. And next to the river was some very long wavy grass. So Spider and all his children took all their drums down to the river and hid behind the long wavy grass. Now the day of the party arrived and the villagers were ready to start cooking. They needed to make lots of food for the party, so they were stirring and they were whisking and they were chopping. But in this particular village, they couldn't just turn on a tap to get the water. They had to go down to the river and get the water in a bucket. So the villagers said to one of the little girls in the village, can you go and get the water so we can carry on with the cooking? So the little girl picked up the bucket and she walked down the path to the river. It was a beautiful sunny day. She walked down the little path through the bushes, past the long wavy grass, till she got to the river. And the river was looking beautiful in the sunshine. The water was glinting, and as she dipped her bucket remember who was hiding in the long wavy grass by the river? Yeah, it was Spider and all his little children. And as she dipped her bucket in the water, Spider started to play. And his children started to play. And they played their drums. And the music made the little girl want to dance. She dropped her bucket and she started to move her head. Che kule, che coffee sa, coffee shalanga, kake shalanga, kumadide, kumadide. And her head was twitching and her shoulders started to go. And her elbows, and her knees, and her feet, and soon her whole body was dancing to the music of Spider the drummer and all his children. Che kule, che coffee sa, coffee shalanga, kake shalanga, kumadide, kumadide. Che kule, che coffee sa, coffee shalanga, kake shalanga, kumadide. And the music got faster and faster, and the girl just couldn't stop dancing because it was such a good beat. And she danced and she danced and she danced until she fell down exhausted on the ground. Fell asleep. Spider and his little family scuttle back behind the long wavy grass. Now, meanwhile, back in the villagers were there stirring and chopping and whisking. But where was the water? What happened to the young girl we sent to get the water, they said? They sent a little boy down to the river. He picked up his bucket and he walked off down the path to the river. The sun was shining still. Down the path he went, through the bushes, past the long wavy grass, till he got to the river. And there it was, glistening in the sunshine. But there, lying next to the river, was the little girl, fast asleep. He gently shook her awake. I said, "What are you doing? We're waiting for the water." And she said, "I don't know what happened, but as soon as I dipped my bucket in the water, this music started to play and I just had to dance." And the little boy kind of laughed and said, "Don't be so ridiculous." And he picked up his bucket and he dipped it into the water. As he did so, Spider and all his little family of drummers started their beat. Che kule, che coffee sa, coffee shalanga, kake shalanga, kumadide, kumadide. And his head started to go, and his shoulders started to go, and his elbows were twitching, and his knees were twitching, and his feet were stumping on the ground. And he was dancing and dancing, and the girl joined in as well. And they danced, and the music got faster. Che kule, che coffee sa, coffee shalanga, kake shalanga, kumadide, kumadide. And the same thing happened. They danced and danced until they were so tired they fell down to the ground and fell asleep. Spider and his little family of drummers scuttled back behind the long wavy grass. Meanwhile, back in the villagers were there, and they were whisking, and they were stirring, and they were chopping, but the water still wasn't there. "What's going on?" they said. Well, you can imagine what happened next, can't you? They sent someone else down to the river, and you know what happened, don't you? They walked down to the river, down the path, through the long wavy grass. And there was the river. And there was a little boy and a little girl fast asleep by the riverbank. And exactly the same thing happened again. As soon as the bucket was dipped in the water, Spider and his family of drummers started their music. And the little boy and the girl started to dance. Che che koole, che che coffee sa, coffee shalanga, kake shalanga, kumatire, che che koole, che che coffee sa, coffee shalanga, kake shalanga, kumatire. And it just kept happening. Every time somebody else came down to the river to see what was going on, they couldn't help joining in with dancing because the rhythm was so infectious. It made them want to dance. In the end, there was only one person left in the village, and that was the village chief. And she thought, I need to find out what's going on. So off she went down to the river, and as she got down to the river, she could hear the drumming. And as soon as she heard that drumming, she started to twitch, and her head started to go, and her shoulders, and her knees, and her feet. And as she approached the river, she saw the whole village dancing. Che che koole, che che coffee sa, coffee shalanga, kake shalanga, kumatire. And she realised what was going on. She realised that Spider and his family of drummers were all there drumming away. And Spider came out from behind the long wavy grass. And the chief said, "What are you doing?" And Spider said, "Well, you didn't invite me to your party, so I have brought the party to me." And actually all the villagers turned and looked at each other, and they burst out laughing because they realised what they'd done. They'd all ended up at the river. And so they looked at Spider and said, "Well, Spider, it's not a party without you and your drumming, so you can come to the party after all." And with that, they all headed off back to the village, back up the path, through the bushes, until they got back to the village. And there they feasted on all the amazing food, and they danced well into the night.